You're tuned in to Floridian Rollo. I'm your host, Floridian Rollo. I'm also streaming on the Rollo Sports channel. So I'm streaming on two channels. So appreciate if y'all hit the like button on your way in. I'm tuning in on two channels. I'm tuning in on the Floridian Rollo, which is my main channel. And I'm also tuning in on the Rollo Sports channel, which is my other channel. All right. So we're going to get right to business in a second. Give me 1 second while I get everything situated. We're going to have this conversation. We're going to talk about the aftermath and what you can learn from it to the people down there in Florida or thinking about moving to Florida, you know, what to look out for. We're going to let the news people talk and I'm going to react to what they're saying. And then we're going to get into the gist of things. All right. So give me 1 second while I get this situated. All right. All right. Okay. I got that done. All right. So we should be good to go. Okay. Appreciate those who's tuning in, viewing in the clouds. All right. On both channels. I'm on Floridian Rollo and I'm also on Rollo Sports channel. All right. So I'm streaming on both channels. Let's get to what the news have to say. And then I'm going to tell y'all what's up. Here we go.
Report with the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. The storm made landfall Wednesday night as a Category 3 hurricane near Siesta Key on the western side of Florida. Milton spawned more than 30 tornadoes and caused catastrophic storm surge. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says some areas received up to 18 inches of rain. State officials confirm at least 10 people have died, and according to Power Outage US, about 3 million Floridians are without electricity.
So 3 million Floridians without electricity, and that's mostly in the west side of Florida and parts of Daytona Beach. They don't have, they have a lot of power outage till now. So it's going to take time for them to get through that. They basically looking for anybody that's unalive, in throughout the west side of Florida and parts of Daytona Beach. As I stated before, the south of the east of the north of Daytona, have certain places that, they recently enhanced, so to say. And I want to say that if you're going to move to Florida, Central Florida and Northeast is still the best places to move to. You could visit the Southeast and parts of West Florida. I wouldn't recommend staying there because of the high tides and it's more sacred. There's certain parts of Florida, the Floridians know exactly what I'm talking about. That's sacred. And it has to be a balance between us and the animals and what's supposed to be reserved for God's people. I'm gonna get into all of that. And for the Gentiles to know who's God's people and the perpetrate from the black Esau's that need to be out of Florida. The Emiratis need to be out of Florida too. Okay? And that's going to happen. People are going to start realizing what's going on through this situation. Believe it or not, they are starting to realize what's going on. Let's continue.
Tens of thousands of residents spent the night in shelters while others evacuated. One of those shelters, Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, had its roof ripped off. No injuries were reported there. Stadium officials say the venue's roof was built to withstand 115-mile-per-hour winds. However, with Milton, winds reached a maximum of sustained winds of 100.
So that's the Tampa Bay Rays Major League Baseball Stadium. That's in St. Petersburg, all right? That's in St. Petersburg. And St. Petersburg got hit the hardest out of everybody, okay? And we know why. If you go to the Skip Police channel, you get your answer there. All right, let's continue.
120 miles per hour. On Thursday, President Joe Biden warned conditions in Florida are still very dangerous. He also addressed the problem with the spread of storm disinformation.
Okay, before we hear what he has to say, let me just say it again. There are certain places in Florida, Floridians know exactly what I'm talking about, that's sacred. That is for us. That's for the animals, and there's certain things we're not supposed to touch, where people came before us. And when you touch something that's not supposed to be touched, the entities are trying to play God right now. And they're the ones who's being judged. You get what I'm saying? And the world wouldn't hit certain locations of whoever did what they did. It's just to get the message. And the message is it has to be some cleansing going on in that state, particularly the West Side, where there are certain practices that these people are doing that they're not supposed to be doing. And the Most High is allowing them entities to go at each other. And now you're starting to see the aftermath, how serious this is. Now, here's the thing, people pushing fear. Oh, Anton Daniels, I won't move there. We don't want you. We don't want you there. We don't want people there that's in fear. And I think a lot of you don't realize the spirit of true Floridians. They get what they got themselves into, and they will be okay because they work as a unit. Whereas in the state you in, Antoine Daniels, there's no unity. There's no connection. There's no careness, because a lot of people in the Midwest seem to forget they go through certain elements too, just as much as it happens in Florida. Be as it's may. Let's continue.
We know from previous hurricanes that it's often the case that more lives are lost the days following the storm than actually during the storm itself. Vice President Harris and I have been in constant contact with the state and local officials. We're offering everything they need, despite the misinformation and lies. The truth is, we're providing the resources needed to rescue, recover, and rebuild.
He's saying, despite the lies that you're hearing on the internet, that they giving out resources. At the end of the day, the people ain't waiting on them to do anything. They're doing it themselves. They're not waiting on the government to do anything, or you.
Fascinating, they are interesting, but they are also devastating every single time.
And speaking of devastation, you know, the governor declared a state of emergency for 51 of the 67 counties there. Evacuation orders, as you know, were placed for dozens of those counties. Give us a sense of what happened to those that you've been able to speak to who did listen to those warnings. And again, you mentioned the few counties on that other side that have had the reports of deaths, but what are you hearing about those search and rescue efforts now?
The search and rescue efforts is going to go throughout the whole month of October, and they're going to start rebuilding in November. And it will take about a good, I say, a year to see it back to normal, because the material that needs to come in, it's going to take time, unfortunately. When 2 years ago happened, it took about 4 or 5 months. And the reason for that is because they had more product. And you have a situation now to where they're trying to do something else. It's not going to happen. The Most High is not going to allow it to happen. The 15-minute thing, they've been talking about doing it down there for a minute. That's not going to happen. There's too many strong people down there that's connected to the truth. And even though you got some entities down there in the west side of Florida, which I'm no way saying it's not, because it is, and that could be in effect. So what I truly believe the Most High is doing is letting the people in the truth know that the entities must be gone, because he has a place for us in Florida. I truly believe that with everything going on, when it all said and done, the entity is not going to be able to fulfill its prophecy on Florida. Florida, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee is by far the most biblical states in America thus far. And even with all this going on, the people still have a good high-end spirit. They just trying to break people down throughout America, throughout the world. And you do have people that you cannot break their spirit because they are connected to the Most High. Through adversity, they're going to do better. And they're not going to want the entity's money to do it. And what you're starting to realize, as I stated, Floridians know that it's number one economic, yet you got these people coming from California, New York, and other places. And I'm on record of saying you cannot bring that Ibarasi way. You cannot bring that foolish spirit down there, because it's going to ricochet on you. This is not where you're coming from. People don't realize Florida is a very high, vibrant, spiritual place than any other state in America. You ask anybody that been to Florida for the first time, they had a culture shock, the food and the water, the healing places, and certain healing places in Florida that you got to be on point to go to. There's so many things besides what you see on TV and camera. I'm telling y'all, I live there. I'm looking forward to going back. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And if your spirit and mind ain't right in the state of Florida or North Carolina or South Carolina, and Georgia is on its way back to where it used to be before they went in Barassi. When you live in Texas in certain parts, there are sacred places. There is healing places. And it's healing, weathers. There's a lot that I could go into that a lot of people need to look into and do their research. Florida is like going to another country for the most part. And there's healing ports for his people. And that's why Florida had the least stress throughout the United States. And even through this situation, the people still have high spirits. You can't break their spirit. You can't break their spirit despite what happened. And condolences to those who lost family members, friends, etc., and animals. That's in the spiritual realm right now. The point is, what's going to happen after this? They're going to try to, the Ibarasi is going to try to buy up, over there. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You're not going to have any say. Now, I heard Anton Daniels talking about don't buy cars in Florida. I heard what the entity said. At the same time, they're going to have to make some decision changes on that, when it comes to vehicles. At the same time, people are trying to act like you should not think about reconsidering. Like I stated, if you do want to live there, you want to buy property or get into some businesses, Central Florida, Northeast Florida is more likely not to get hit with hurricanes as much and tornadoes for the most part. The only thing is if the people are on point, because West Florida is very beautiful. It's very exotic. It's like, it's a different world. You see it on camera, it's one thing. To be there in person, it's a whole next step. And throughout all the things that's going on down there, it's still one of the most visible, the most places people want to go from other parts of the world and in the United States. You ask anybody, what's their top 3 places? They're going to say Florida 1, Arizona 2, and Vegas 3. Let's continue.
Well, we know that search and rescue efforts are well underway at this point. On the Gulf side, 1,400 different crews were standing by ready to carry out search and rescue efforts, and they have been all day, busy at work, pulling people from their homes, rescuing people in the flood zones. That has also been the case here on the west or on the eastern side of the state as well, Jerika. We have seen crews at work, both trying to restore power, also urging people to avoid going back to their homes in those flood zones. You know, we visited a flood zone earlier today, which was inundated with flood water from the storm, homes that had 1-2 feet of standing water. Now, the one thing about that water is you're not just walking through water, you're walking through potentially debris, downed power lines that could still be live wires, toxic chemical leaks. Those are things to consider. And still, people were going back to what was left of their homes, Jerika. People are eager to get back to see what has happened to their homes.
Yeah, really unfortunate for so many people there. Tom Hansen in Daytona Beach, thank you for your reporting.
So basically, when you look at this situation, right, they're going to recover stronger than ever before. And it's going to be a little bit longer to make adjustments. At the same time, just know, to my people in Floridian, let's have a balance. Let's get rid of these Ibaraxis, these entities that don't belong there, trying to play God. Everybody's going to be knowing what they need to do. And you're going to see it transpire in Florida, still going to progress, just like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Louisiana got a lot of work to do. You got Arizona is on the up and up. So when I look at this situation, I look at it as people are learning what they need to do and what not to get involved in and have a balance. And we good to go. Let's continue.
I want to go now to CBS News meteorologist and hurricane expert David Yeomans. Thank you so much for joining us, David. Hurricane Milton developed obviously very quickly, but it was unique, I understand, because it didn't hit at its highest intensity. Explain to our viewers what that means.
That's exactly right. This was remarkable in a number of ways. First of all, this was the second fastest intensifying Atlantic hurricane that we have ever seen. We talk about rapid intensification. That means a storm gains 35 miles per hour of wind speed in a day. This storm gained more than 90 miles per hour of wind speed in just 12 hours. Here's the storm on the maps Monday afternoon after rapid.
They over-exaggerating at this point. Now they're really trying to over-exaggerate. They try to get people to leave Florida. That's not going to happen. I don't care what anybody's saying. It's going to, the thing though is this, right? You know, there's certain places that not supposed to be touched. And that's for the Lord's people, not for the sinisters, not for the wicked, not for the unjust, not for those who's going down there with wrong intentions. You will be spattered out. Even an entity will be spattered out. They're not going to have no say. They think because this happened that it's going to push out the righteous people. That's not going to happen. That's going to bring more righteous people together. And the people will cling on to the righteous people. You heard it here first. Watch how majority of the Floridians is going to cling on to listen to the righteous people and not get involved in certain things that they thought they should get involved in. And that's going to kick out a lot of these entities. That's the Most High's doing. It's happening. The South is going to belong to the righteous people for the time being to get themselves learn how to work together. And the entities is going to move right back up to the North and go into planning hell. Let's continue.
rapidly intensifying as a monster Category 5. But fortunately, as predicted, even though the water was warm ahead of this storm, the atmospheric conditions started to rip the storm up a little bit. Upper level winds or wind shear weakened it to a Category 3 by landfall, then into a Category 1, and now the storm is no longer officially tropical. It seems like every single hurricane that has hit the U.S. recently has rapidly intensified until it hits land. Basically, it's hit at its maximum intensity. Luckily, this storm did not. It made landfall with winds near 120 miles per hour instead of 185 miles per hour like it had on Monday.
Wow. David, I want to talk about those tornadoes. You know, I think when you think of hurricanes,
Now she wants to talk about the tornadoes. Let's see what he says about it.
you don't always think of tornadoes, the ones that emerged on Wednesday. How rare was something like that?
You know, it's not rare to see tornadoes from a hurricane, but it is rare to see a tornado outbreak and also strong tornadoes like we saw here. Look at the maps. These are all of the cumulative tornado warnings issued in the state of Florida yesterday. An all-time Florida record, 126 tornado warnings in one day. Out of those, so far, we have 38 reported tornadoes. 38. Compare that to Helene, which produced 20 reported tornadoes, and Debbie, another storm that hit the U.S. this year, only produced 5.
We saw in the last live shot with Tom Hansen, the storm has moved on, but you can still see those waves crashing. Talk to us about what people sort of in the southeast region may expect to feel in terms of the after effects.
Okay, now she's going to talk about the southeast. Notice they're talking about the west and the southeast. Pay attention. Let's see what they say.
And as it moves out to sea.
Yeah, luckily the storm is really improving or gone for the hardest hit areas, but the southeastern coast of the east coast of Florida, the coast of Georgia, and South Carolina still dealing with some of the winds from this storm. You can see on the map, the tropical storm force wind field is still over 400 miles wide, and it's not that far from the coast. It will continue to move away, but with winds that strong and over that large of an area, we do still have a little bit of storm surge on the east coast of Florida. Storm surge.
All right, so it's up to 3 feet of storm surge. Okay, from Jacksonville to, I would say, upwards of Georgia. That's because that's Georgia right there. That's the state of Georgia. To the middle northeast of Florida. Tipping to the southeast almost. All right, let's see what they say.
Remember, is the rise in ocean level from the storm. Storm surge warnings have been allowed to expire, but we still have up to 3 feet of ocean level rise in places like Jacksonville, also backing up the St. Johns River.
All right, David Yeomans for us in Chicago. Thank you so much.
Anyone with 10,000.
All right, so that's pretty much it about that. I just wanted to get to that. Let me go to my live chat. Hey, look, at the end of the day, I'm going to talk about it on another video about where to be at, what to get, what you need to do, and what to prepare for. This is Floridian Rollo. I want to say to my Floridians that I know it's tough. You're dealing with a lot. Don't let the outside noise get to y'all. Don't let the outside noise get to y'all because y'all know what you have to do. And a lot of people are starting to see that there's a rise of goodness going on in that state. And y'all deserve it. Just like North Carolina doing their thing, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee, the list goes on. With the people that's in the upright, I don't really care for the wicked. They're going to get their just due. For you folks that's doing the right thing, for the people by the people, you're going to be all right. And to my peoples, the men of the Lord, the daughters of Zion, that is going through somewhat of a challenge economically, that should get y'all more closer together to figure out what you're going to do on your end. And to the Gentiles that's helping the men of the Lord and the daughters of Zion and your people, we've seen a lot of togetherness. Sometimes certain adversities bring you more together, and it gives you more better situations. Look at this as we lost some lives. Condolences to those people. Some of you is going through power outages. I know that's not what you want to happen. At the same time, it brings you more together. Do not let these entities, the Ibaratzis, Y'all know what the Ibaracis is. I'm not gonna say their actual name on here. The Ibaracis, don't give them the energy to the people in Florida because they have no clue how to survive. And if it wasn't for Floridians, if it wasn't for the Carolinas, the Georgias, the Tennessees, the Texas, the Arizonas, of the goods and services that you'll bring up to the Northerners who have no clue how to survive without y'all. Because they have this fake facade. And a lot of people in the South keep it real. They don't hide who they are and what they represent. So with that said, hey, to my Floridians, I'll be back home soon. And we're going to get it on and popping for the righteous. Salute to the real people out there that's helping each other out. Because in the long haul, that's counting as a good deed through tough times. Y'all know how to survive. That's why y'all down there. And I'm glad that I am a Floridian. Real talk. I'm looking forward to going home soon. It's not where you're born. It's where you're supposed to be. So to those tuning into the Rado Sports channel, make sure you thumbs up the video. I'm signing off. Y'all take it easy and peace.